Holy moly, you guys. Holy crap, you guys. I had no idea what I was getting into when I started looking into remote viewing. It's the next episode of the Know the Soul Ability series here on NextGEN Medium, the podcast, and remote viewing. Now, I had an idea of what this was about. I started doing some research, and little did I know the U.S. government was going to have a document for me to check out and cite and tell you about. I had no idea that was coming. So we're going to talk about remote viewing, what it is, the dominant soul abilities used in remote viewing, my experience with remote viewing, also ways to develop your remote viewing skills, which goes for all of our soul abilities that we're going to be talking about. And of course, exercise tips, and even one crucial tip on remote viewing from the U.S. government. Can you believe we're going to talk about the U.S. government in this episode of NextGEN Medium, the podcast? Hey there, I'm Sarah Nickerson. I discovered my psychic intuitive mediumship abilities not too long ago. Before that, I had no clue what was going to be uncovered and discovered, and see that there's a lot that I don't know about myself. And now I have a clearer picture and different priorities after uncovering this stuff, experimenting with it, having a spiritual awakening. I had no idea I was going to be stepping into this world, and you are looking to do that. So you are already further along than I was at some point, and you are actively seeking out for this information. So do know that I think everybody has this stuff. I think it's your birthright. People just aren't aware. We're not raised to understand this stuff. So I want to help you. I want to get you there. I want you to be aware that this is yours. Check. I think you're open to that. And that I want to help you get to a threshold of understanding your abilities. There's lots of experimenting you have to do. There's a lot of stuff on your plate, your responsibility. But I think having me alongside you, telling you my experience, telling you my truths, gives you sort of a partner in this journey. And if I can help you get there, to get to that threshold of seeing the stuff for yourself, seeing your abilities, seeing that this is yours to behold, then I've done my job, like more above and beyond my job. So welcome. And I want to open you up to the possibilities, not only that this stuff is yours, but specifics. We're looking at specifics with the Know the Soul Ability series. And today we're focusing on remote viewing. So what are the soul abilities that this whole series encompasses? There's many different ways we use soul abilities. And I call them modes. So you've got psychic skills, intuitive skills, healing, mediumship. There's probably more out there that I'm just not even familiar with. But these are like big core ones that you're probably seeking to get familiar with. So these soul abilities are not the sense, like your clairvoyance, seeing things or hearing things, but it's sort of the mode, the kind of the vehicle that gets you to draw in these senses. And this is what makes the soul ability. Everyone has access to their soul abilities. Some people may be able to access more easily than others. And I've mentioned before that I do believe there's a component of how you're raised, what you're open to, what you believe is possibility or not possibility. There could also be a genetic component in there as well. Definitely going to put that in there. But some people, they just naturally have higher skills and stuff than others. And what are your skills? That's what we want to know. What can you tap into right now so you can start witnessing this for yourself? These are questions that you have, and these are things we need to investigate. You have the curiosity. And let's do some experimentation and get some knowledge in that brain so you know you have a little bit of direction, but also know like what's on the menu, what can I explore? And so remote viewing is one of those things you can explore. What is remote viewing? Let's start there and kick things off with the soul abilities. Know Your Soul Abilities series episode of remote viewing. Let's do this. Here we go. Okay. Remote viewing. Man, I did not know what I was in for when I started researching this episode. But remote viewing, also known as RV in the remote viewing world. I didn't know that either. RV to me is like this vehicle you drive around and you can go to national parks and stuff. But it is a psychic ability that is about perceiving information about events and places and people and objects and feelings. All of this inaccessible through your conventional senses. So it has that paranormal thing connected with it. All this stuff's going to have paranormal connected to it. But yeah, it's definitely kind of mystical. Another definition to consider is from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. They call remote, yes, you heard that right. U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. Medicine Institute, U.S. National Library. Yeah, you heard all those words together. They have a definition of this. Remote viewing is the supposed faculty which enables a percipient, sighted in a closed room to describe the perceptions of a remote agent visiting an unknown target site. I would also throw intuition in there as well. This one's a hard one. I'm not really quite 100% on what our mode would be for remote viewing because it's like you're seeing what someone else is seeing. So I would say if you connect telepathy with psychic ability, then you would do remote viewing with psychic ability as well. I'm going to put that out there. Yeah, I am. Check it. Now, let's get even more crazy with these definitions. The United States Central Intelligence Agency, yes, the CIA has actually gotten in on this type, this psychic type, this soul ability type, even providing, and I got a link, providing a suggested remote viewing training procedure document from 1986. I found it on Google and it is outrageous. You'll need a few hours to go through this, but oh my God, this is a pretty interesting read if you're interested in this psychic type. This is where conspiracy theories are made. So you got to check this out. I can't believe I actually have the PDF. Oh, it failed to upload. Poo. Okay, fine. I have the link. Oh, I just closed out of it. I have the link for this on my website, in my blog, nextgenmedium.com, in this particular blog post that is dedicated to this episode. Know Your Psychic Types series, remote viewing. That's the name of it if you're looking for it. I just clicked out of it. Hold on. Ugh. Here we go. And yeah, we'll get back to that document in a bit. So, kind of touched upon this. Dominant soul abilities used in remote viewing. So, viewing lends itself to the soul ability mode that I would characterize as psychic, but I could see how it could be other things. Now, depending on what you define as mediumship, that's tapping into other entities' abilities. Now, if someone's living, that's sort of one of the weird things about mediumship is you're tapping into archangels or Jesus or your grandparent or a grandparent that passed on, but can you tap into other people's higher selves, their energies? People who have bodies and are on the earth plane, because I can also see this being a mediumship thing too, but this one's a hard one. I'm not really sure where this would go when it comes to modes. However, when we're talking about soul senses, viewing is obviously a clairvoyance thing. So According to the definition, feelings are also associated, so we can also include clairsentience as well. I would not discount other soul senses that help support information when remote viewing. That could include clairalience, which is psychic smell, and claircognizance, which is just clear knowing. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, let's talk about my experience with remote viewing. Maybe there's something in here that could resonate with an experience you've had. So I have participated in a remote viewing experience with a development circle I attended for a few months. And so these were people that were interested in understanding their soul abilities themselves. I think it was more specific about mediumship, but we did play a lot with psychic, intuitive, like all this stuff, but not really defining like this is a psychic thing and this is a medium thing. Like there's just really no need to create all these definitions or to put things in boxes, because this world is just so difficult to put in a box. It's a tick in a box. But one of the exercises that we participated in was to meditate on someone in the circle, and you were assigned to one of the people in the circle beforehand. And so at a random time and day prior to the next meeting, we were to kind of have a meditation and think about this person, focus on what they were doing in that moment. So you got to focus on this group member that you were assigned to. And between the last class and the next one, you need to be thinking about them at some point and spying on them, basically, which is really uncomfortable. So it's kind of like, first of all, can I have permission to check in with you at any time? Is that okay? So I think that was one of the important things to get out of this exercise is, can I have permission to do that? Because if you're not getting permission, then you're being nosy, and then you're not respecting people's privacy, and that's just not okay. So I was actually paired with the group leader, the person who was running the circle, Patty. And I meditated on a Sunday afternoon about Patty and was focusing on her and was able to perceive her surroundings and her actions at that moment during my meditation. So I was able to see Patty in her living room. Okay. So, hold on. I got to hear what I'm saying. So in this exercise, I was able to see, when I did my meditation on her on a Sunday afternoon, I was able to see her sitting in her living room. I was able to kind of move around the space, see her in a particular like wingback chair near a window, nice big large window, like a bay window, picture window. I could see photos around that were in frames and furniture in the space, how it was configured in her living room, where she was sitting in the room. I saw her talking on the phone to somebody. I could even picture who she was talking to and sort of how she was reacting to the conversation, her disposition during the conversation, even how she was sitting, the kind of chair she was sitting in. And it was all snapshots and giving information like a photograph, like all very visual. And after my meditation, I wrote down what happened in my meditation, which would be concurrent with the time that I was remote viewing her. So that meditation point, I was looking to see what was going on with her in that moment. And then I tried to document like everything that I was getting. And when we met back up for a meeting a few days, I am recording, right? Okay. A few days later, we discussed our experiences, each person in the circle, and we were able to get feedback from each other. What were you doing Sunday at 3:00? Because that's when I did my meditation. It was supposed to be like a secret as to when you were going to tap in. And, but you got permission to tap in anytime. But each person gave their experience, and then they got feedback on what was happening around that time, or to see the accuracy of their meditation experiences, how it compared to the reality of the person going on at that time when the meditation took place. The person I read, Patty, I say read, but the person that I remote viewed on, Patty, she was able to give confirmation on lots of information I was able to provide through my documentation of my experience. And I've had other experiences that have felt differently that I would also like to mention as the possibility of remote viewing. There are times, and these are, so the remote viewing example that I just gave about doing a meditation on Patty, how I've experienced a different way that could possibly fit into that remote viewing category is an experience I have sometimes when I'm falling asleep and I'm laying there and I'm kind of quieting my mind. There are times when it almost seems like I'm looking through my eyelids. But sometimes I know my eyes are closed, like I can feel my eyelids closed, like physically closed, but it almost seems like I can see through my eyelids and look at the wall that's in front of me. I got some shelves, and so if I'm laying down, it's almost like I'm picturing the visual of what's in front of me, even though my eyes are closed. I've also had experiences a little bit different from that, where it's almost like I'm looking at I'm in another place. And one specific memory I remember of this, I'm looking at a wall and it looks like a mud wall. And what makes this so memorable and really catches my attention, something that kind of makes me wonder what exactly remote viewing is because I have these moments when I'm in that sort of more cognitive part of falling asleep, and I feel like I can look through my eyelids, so weird, and looking at a scene from somewhere else in the world. And what makes it so spectacular is the detail that I am witnessing when I'm in these other places in the world. And it's always sort of like a very quiet moment. It's not necessarily I'm watching people do something or I'm watching something taking place. It's more or less a very still scene, but it feels like I am in that place because of how clear the imagery is, how bright, how the lighting even seems quite different than other experiences I've had. And so I would put this in with the remote viewing experiences as well. But I definitely see these scenes. These scenes make me feel like these are images that go beyond my usual perception of psychic experiences, which seem more like using my imagination, viewing using my mind's eye. When I'm using my mind's eye, it's not like colors are really bright or there's a vibrancy like what I've experienced of these sort of, I would call them remote viewing experiences. However, I don't have the information that I'm actually remote viewing to be solid in that fact. So plausible. I think that's where I am with that. But I've experienced this a few times. These experiences feel different. There's a heightened clarity of what I'm seeing. But like viewing, but I have experienced these a few times. Like I'm viewing what's in my bedroom. Like my eyes are actually open. but I'm in an unknown place. I don't know how to explain this. I do have an ability to control this if I care to, but it's a different experience I thought I'd add to in this topic, just in case other people experience this too. This may fit more into like an out of body or astral projection, but I thought I'd throw this in as a possibility for remote viewing. And with all the soul abilities, I have tips to help you. Now, there really is no process because everybody's starting at a different points. They have already built some things up that they haven't realized they built up, or do things in a way that they're already acting with their intuition. They're already using it. So ways to kind of fit for everybody. Certain skills to develop include meditating. Meditating is a widely known act, something we all are familiar with. And so being in that place of meditating, quieting the mind, focusing inward, that's a place that you need to get familiar with because it helps build your baseline of what is normal for you. And in doing so, you'll be able to discern your messaging as the what is abnormal in this experience, because you get so familiar with what's normal. Once you start receiving messaging, you'll be able to turn it into, okay, this is messaging because this is not my normal. This doesn't happen here normally. Okay. So meditating is important. I've got a couple videos that you can check out to guide you through the meditation process, just to get you kind of comfy in meditation. I've got a white light meditation for the developing psychic, really anybody looking to do the soul abilities stuff. It's a way to take in that light, that energy from quote unquote source. And it's a good way to kind of start building up your meditation familiarity. Also, if you want to mix it up, you got your energy protection meditation for the developing psychic, all those soul ability things. I have a video on that too. And that is on my YouTube, but I also have it in this blog post that's dedicated to this topic in particular, Know the Soul Abilities Remote Viewing. So you can click on that and view it from here, from the blog. Also, knowing your clairs, having a good, studying up a little bit on what clair abilities are and the different kinds. If you're not familiar with clairs, then you may not be able to identify how you receive. You may not be able to understand what tools you are using. So I've got a list of those on my blog at nextgenmedium.com. Also, a link to that is in this same blog post for this episode of the podcast, Know the Soul Abilities, Remote Viewing. And last up, when you are doing your exercises, when you are trying to connect, get yourself familiar with that place of messaging, of quieting the mind, of opening up, of messaging, then exercise tips for you that I've added in here as well include, of course, keeping your mind open. If you think that this is impossible, then you're not going to be able to get what you want out of it. But keeping an open mind ensures that you are open to possibility and that you are open to what you receive, no matter how crazy, weird, whatever it is. Also, meditation, that is always going to be something that you're going to hear me say a lot, okay? Also, observing when you are in the throes of your exercise. Be sure that you are observing, not dismissing, not judging. You're just taking it in. Let it roll. And last of all, I want you to document. Documentation for me was a way for me to see the accumulation of experiences. And being a data person, if you're like me, you want to see the evidence. It's not enough to know you've experienced something. Sometimes you got to see that the numbers, the number of times that you've experienced particular things should be something that sways you when it comes to, do I have this or not? And sometimes documenting your experiences, and sometimes you'll forget some incredible experiences and be like, oh, I totally forgot about that. That's cool that I wrote that. I'm glad I wrote that down. You can also, once you start accumulating a lot of stuff in your journal, wherever you document, in your app or whatever, You'll be able to identify trends and be able to discern what abilities are once you start getting a clear understanding of the abilities. So, good idea to document. And last of all, I would have you review the Identifying Ego in Your Messaging podcast episode that I did very recently, but I also have a blog post that's dedicated to this as well. And ways to identify the way that your ego is coming in to mess up what you're doing right now, to get in the way, to be a burden. And once you can identify it, you can actually, I think once you have an awareness of what your ego blockages are, then it gives you a wider perspective. It gives you the ability to work easier, for real. So check out all this information. It's on my blog at nextgenmedium.com/blog. It's all compiled together for you, so you have one place to go. One more thing we got to talk about is this crazy ass document that I found on the Google, and it's something from the U.S. government, and I cannot believe that the U.S. government has something on remote viewing, but yeah, they do. It's actually a manual from the CIA giving us tips on how to do remote viewing. You gotta check this out if you're interested in remote viewing. Even if you're not interested in it, I think there's definitely a curiosity of what does the government know that they're not telling us, and how is this stuff so widely, people are so skeptical of it, yet the government's using it. So check out this document. It is an incredible document, and tells you a lot of things that the government has been doing and revolving around this sole ability of remote viewing. It is incredible to a document like this. It is incredible to see a document like this where tests were done to check the validity and accuracy of remote viewing. Like they were testing it for real. 70 plus page document. It has instructions on how to test people, what conditions are best to test people, results for novices versus experienced viewers, and even a procedure to get accurate information. What I did notice, and I did go through this, the thing stressed the most in this document that I think is an important takeaway for your psychic skills, your soul abilities, in general, everything, is really getting that first impression. That first impression, don't doubt it. Even the government's saying it. So from this document, 2 things that I took away that I wanted to bring to you. 1, be interested in testing your ability. If you have motivation, if you innately care, if you're genuinely curious, then I would say test this. And if you don't care or aren't motivated to do this, then your accuracy will be poor. This was a part of that document. If you're interested in it, then you're open to succeeding. If you're not interested in it, then you could really care less about whether it's a thing or not. And their second point was to get your first impression. Write it down, take a break. And this procedure is part of the CIA's remote viewing documents that I can totally relate to as a psychic medium intuitive. I generally take what I get and don't want to dive too far into what I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, because it's those initial impressions that make an accurate message. And that's just from my experience, but apparently the CIA is right on board with that too. That does it for this episode of Next Gen Medium, the podcast where we are continuing the psychic series of Know the Soul Abilities, focusing on remote viewing. Now, I do have a blog post for this, like I've mentioned. In it is the links to the videos. I actually have the videos embedded in the post, so you actually don't have to navigate away from it. Where you can check out the videos, you can check out the Claire's list, you can check out the list of ego stuff, so you can start getting into that, and this sweet ass CIA document that just blows my mind. Also, on that blog, if you are super interested in remote viewing, I have social media resources for you on Facebook, stuff from Reddit. I have videos that you can check out. I've gone through all these videos, so These got the NextGEN Medium seal of approval. Also, websites and organizations dedicated to remote viewing, and also links to my resources. That does it for this episode of NextGEN Medium, the podcast. Really interesting topic, and I had no idea that I was going to be coming across a government document that is all about testing the validity of remote viewing. So if that gets your jollies, then check that out at my blog at nextgenmedium.com/blog. Where am I going? I need this. I forgot to bring this up. While you're at my website, you can sign up for my newsletter and stay in touch with upcoming NextGen Medium stuff, educational things, contests for free readings, and a whole lot more. You can also sign up for a development session /reading, and we'll talk about where you're at, and we'll get you to where you want to go. And I can also give a reading to you in that process as well. Check out the blog, vlog, and other podcast episodes at nextgenmedium.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram. And until next time, have a pleasant rest of your day. Thank you for listening, and I'll chat with you later. See ya. Bye.